I'm very influenced by the atmosphere of a room, do you know? And I just knew from the very moment that I came here that I would be able to work here. I stayed here for the last 22 years. If we can go back 22 years, I can't remember when that means. 61, I think, 1961. I mean, I don't know how one can explain the atmosphere of places. I suppose it's the form of construction.
When you first saw it, was it the light that particularly made you like it? Were you aware of what particular things made you like it?
No, because I had the ceiling taken off this place.
See.
And I had this light, which is not the ideal light, because it's east-west, so it's not an ideal light, but it just had an atmosphere that I knew I could work here. I bought a beautiful studio around the corner, and I made it too grand. It was so grand. It was carpeted with beautiful curtains, and it was the most perfect light and everything, but I still couldn't do a thing in it. I was absolutely castrated in the place. I couldn't do a thing.
But this is somewhere where you actually must have painted the majority of your surviving works, given that you don't destroy as much as you used to.
I think I have painted a great number of them here, yes. And this is the reason that I'm always hoping, until I drop dead, that I won't have to give it up. But that's things one doesn't know. Yes, well, it is opening at last, yes. Am I going to be the only one drinking?
When we go out to dinner, and you say you choose something, and I, in order not to make it too extravagant, choose a very good second growth, you sort of graft your way through the first bottle, and then say, let's have something proper now, and order La Tour or Lafitte.
I see. Oh, well, I don't know.
I think you're actually as difficult to please over wine as you are over painting. You don't like much of your own, you don't like much of anybody else's, and you only like the very, very best.
Let's bring to that then.
Don't you, when you're out with Francis, constantly feel slightly humiliated by the feeling that you're both eating the same thing, and you're quite enjoying it, and he suddenly says, "This is terrible." Does this happen to you?
Many a time, yeah. It's better than other places.
Well, I like the good food I was brought up with. I mean, my mother, living in Arnhem, we used to have very, very simple, good but very simple food. Things like oxtail and shepherd's pie and all those kinds of things, which were absolutely delicious when they're properly cooked. They say wine doesn't make any difference. By accident, I was drunk, of course, and I made a marvellous stew. I had a very good thing, and I put a bottle of Petrus into it. As the Petrus was then £90 a bottle or something like that. Mind you, it was only because I was well pissed that I put it in. But that's how it was a very good stew. Do you remember?
Very nice, yeah. You like good food, though, Dave, didn't you?
Yes, of course he does. Loves it.
Some more drink.
I'll have a little more, John. Have I got some? Give me a little.
Well, I don't know. Would you want wine?
Oh, did I? Yes, please. Thank you.
Is there any rhyme or reason in the pictures on the wall, or I mean, are they there very much by choice?
Yes, they are. There are some of the pictures, not all of them, which I've done recently, which I rather prefer, and then I like looking at them for this reason, that like other pictures and like other things I look at, they're always a kind of visual stimulus that I think, oh, well, why didn't I do this in another way or in a better way? And so they suggest all sorts of other images. So that's the reason I have them stuck up there. I have that portrait of Van Gogh because Van Gogh is one of my great heroes. And I think that in Van Gogh's work, you get something very remarkable, is that he was able to be almost literal, and yet he, by the technique and by the way he put up on the paint, he completely, although he gave you a marvelous vision of the image of of the reality of things, he was able to do it without making an illustration of them. I saw it very clearly when I was once in Provence and going through that part of the Crow where he did some of his remarkable landscapes. And one just saw in this absolutely barren country that by the way he puts on the paint, he was just able to give it such an amazing living quality, which if he just made a simple illustration of it, he wouldn't have been able to do. And it's one of the things where you could say, we were talking before about painting and photography, is where a photograph could never have done what Van Gogh did in The Crow because of his actual technique, his way of putting on the paint, which brought it to life and gave you that reality of what The Crow has. It's this just plain bare land.
One of the things I see that you've got here is the painting of the sand dune.
Ah, yes. I know it's a painting that you like, and it's curious enough that lots of people say to me for some reason that they think it has to do with the human body. But I must say, I have never thought of it in that way. I just thought of it as a sand dune.
And you painted it with the dust from the studio, did you?
I painted with the dust from the studio. It is an awful game getting all that dust up from the floor, but there's plenty of dust next door, as you know, stuck to the pictures and everything else. So I just painted, took a cloth and painted and put it on like one would almost onto the wet paint, and then after it was dried, I set it as one sets a pastel. Because, you see, I haven't got it up here, but a painting that I have of a friend of mine, which is in the Tate Gallery, and his suit looks immaculate. And there's practically no paint on it at all, and it's paint with the dust from the floor. Well, as dust seems to be eternal, it seems to be the one thing that lasts forever. One of the things I noticed, and I was very pleased to see this, it seemed to be as fresh as when I first put it on, nearly 40 years ago.
Good Lord. Where did you find the dust? Let's go in.
Well, the dust I find, well, there's plenty of dust in this place. I mean, there's a mass of dust. Just see, in a few moments, do you see the dust collects? I don't know if I've got a especially good example of it at the moment, of dust just collects anywhere. I just sweep it up if it hasn't collected. The only trouble is using the pastel, a lot of this dust has become coloured. But look at, you see, now that is the perfect colour for a grey suit, isn't it? And that is what is all over his grey suit. And it hasn't altered the slightest bit after 40 years.
It's reasonably tidy at the moment, France, isn't it, really?
Well, this is tidy compared to what it
last time
sometimes is. John and I really tried to throw out things and tidy them a bit, because it just became that you could hardly walk into the place, do you know? It was like having a great dog in here that kept you out. There was so much of it in here. You see, most photographers love the walls here because I've used them as palettes. So, because they like the different colours and things that go onto the walls and onto the door. That's the reason I really will be very sad if I have to leave this place. I feel at home here in this chaos, because also chaos suggests images to me. Not necessarily just that I just love living in chaos. In any case, I can only be if I go into a new room, in a week's time the thing is in chaos.
Well, you're not a dirty person, just untidy, really.
I like things to be clean. I don't want my cups and things.
Oh, no.
I don't want the plates and things to be filthy dirty. But nevertheless, I would like it. I like a chaotic atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that I think it's easier to work in a chaotic atmosphere, And I'll tell you why I think it's easier. Because I think that art is a matter of bringing order to the chaos of life. And if you work in a room that is fairly chaotic, it makes sense in a chaotic room to be working towards making something ordered.
That I absolutely agree with you, but nobody could have put it better than you have put it. Because after all, what is art about is trying to make something out of the chaos of existence. So what can I say? This triptych I did from the Oresteia. Well now, I don't know that I could talk about specific images that belong to the Oresteia, but it happens by reading it in translations, that it suggests an enormous number of images to me, and these are three of the images. I think of this one on the left as the Erinyes in their most vicious mood, which, like our guilt, haunts us. We are always haunted by our guilt, as you know. Well, they were well haunted by this image. Well, now, this is a painting that I did for the Guggenheim, and I particularly like the right-hand panel of this. I did feel that this, in a way, was influenced by the Cimabue crucifixion. It might be hard to identify it with that, but the Cimabue has always been a painting that I've admired enormously because it always looked like an extraordinary image sliding down the cross. That is just water, tap running. And I think it's perhaps one of my better paintings because I think of it as being a very immaculate painting with the tap flowing and the water flowing out, and that's all. It's an invention in which the paint, for a moment, for me, works. This is the painting of a landscape that I did. Well, I'd trampled it down to such an extent that that's about all that was left of the landscape. It was a photograph of a landscape, and so I put in that bit. And it's but the colour doesn't reproduce at all well, but it's one of my favourite landscapes. And that is one of, I did of a torso. I didn't put the head on because I thought it would take away from the intensity of it, so I just put the cricket pads on. I didn't do it because I'm particularly interested in cricket. I did it because it made the image more real.
And you can't say why?
No.
Of course, they read things into things anyway. I mean, the example of the figure with the hypodermic syringe. Now, I suppose you might say in that particular case, it was a hypodermic syringe.
It was a hypodermic syringe. But I wanted something to nail the image, the figure, as it were, to the bed. And it looked more logical with a hypodermic syringe. I couldn't put a nail through their arm, so it was much easier to put a hypodermic syringe.
But it wasn't an attempt to suggest that the person was a drug addict.
Well, I wasn't really caring or thinking. When I started to paint, I never, for instance, expected anybody to ever buy my work. I always thought that I would have to do some other kind of job to earn my living. So that gradually, as I've been lucky enough to sell painting and have been able to live by my work, I think I still have the same indifference to what other people think about it. When I first started to work, I worked to excite myself. Now, as it happens, that other people become slightly interested in it. And so sometimes I sell things. My things are always difficult to sell, but every so often they do sell some.
Your ideas about life, about society and so forth, were they formed at an early time in your life, or did you go through periods when you thought quite other things?
Well, when I was young, I thought nothing, except enjoying myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really think about that. I suppose that later you could say my philosophy, you wouldn't call it a philosophy. I think life, in a way, is so difficult that you may as well be as decent as you possibly can be, or as indulgent as you possibly can towards other people, hoping they'll behave in the same way to you. It doesn't necessarily work out that way, but that's how it comes about. So, I mean, I haven't got a very coherent philosophy of life. But philosophy, what is it to me? Nothing, because after all, I'm from my own point of view, I know we're born